Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. I'm joined once again by UCLA professor and author Chon Noriega, man who's guiding us through our festival about Latino images and films. Chon wrote this definitive book about the subject called Shot in America, Television, the State, and the Rise of Chicano Cinema. Welcome back, Chon.
Thank you.
Now, our next film on our agenda this evening is a silent film from 1922 and a premiere for us at TCM called Big Stakes. Now, this is a movie I know nothing about. You have to set it up and why you picked this movie.
Well, the first time I saw this film, it knocked my socks off.
Where did you see it?
I somehow came across it on a catalog of a collector and asked to be able to show it in a classroom, and it astounded me. First of all, it's a Western. It's kind of a slightly comic Western, and we're used to thinking of the Western as taking place between the end of the Civil War and the closing of the frontier in 1890. But this is a film that's set in the contemporary moment. It features a cowboy who rides a horse, but his would-be girlfriend is a waitress who drives cars. And it's absolutely contemporary, but it's set against a vision of Mexico as kind of Spanish aristocracy that's completely anachronistic. And it plays these two off in terms of a love triangle that is ultimately resolved by a jumping bean. It's humorous, but what it's trying to do in terms of distinguishing between Mexico and the U.S., between aristocracy and a working class white culture is really fascinating. But the other thing is clearly the references to the female star who plays a waitress is to the new woman, a feminist ideal of the time in terms of someone who's able to earn her own living, who has mobility, and who has aspirations. And the way in which the film tries to resolve that as much as resolve the love triangle between the cowboy and a couple in Mexico is...
It's interesting that you bring up about this, about the different settings and all of that. But we have to remember, as you pointed out, that these weren't made for historical accuracy.
No,
they're not.
No.
These weren't history lessons they were giving.
No.
They were just making movies to entertain people, right?
And what I think is really amazing about the silent westerns, and it doesn't get enough attention, is the fact that the silent western was not a historical genre. It was not talking about the past.
Right.
More often than not, it was dealing with something that was part of contemporary reality, even up to the 20s,
right.
like this film. And so it was really, in some ways, trying to use that as a contemporary genre to work through some of the social issues and racial conflicts and gender dynamics that were going on at that time.
Any stars in this movie we would know?
Well, the main actor is J.B. Warner. He is an up-and-coming Western actor who was getting a lot of attention and unfortunately would pass away from tuberculosis just 2 years later at the age of 29.
Wow.
So it was a short-lived career.
Well, let's have a look. Here's a film produced by a company long forgotten, but known at the time as the Metropolitan Pictures Corporation of California. Here's a movie called Big Stakes. Well, I'm back with my co-host this evening, Chon Noriega, a professor at UCLA and the director of the UCLA Chicano Studies Research Center. Now, I've learned something here. I've learned how cowboys sing in silent movies. We get those little lyrics up there. And also, if I'm ever in a love triangle, you know, I know how to settle it now. Get some jumping beans.
You know, absolutely.
Good solution. Never thought of that before.
And if you're an American cowboy, you're going to win.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you, you know, in Westerns of this period and even later, were the Mexicans and the Spaniards often portrayed as the villains of the piece?
Often they would help frame the story in terms of the action that was taking place within a town or between different sets of white characters. And they wouldn't necessarily be central to it, but they would help set the outer limits of what the story was about and who the resolution applied to. And now in this film, the cowboy wins the jumping bean contest, but he decides to let the señorita choose the man. So it's another reference to women,
yes.
Women having the choice, and they get to choose. But in the end, with the appearance of the Ku Klux Klan, what happens is you have the cowboy going with the waitress and the señorita going with El Capitan. And so you have marriages that stay within the appropriate classes and also within the appropriate racial and national groups. So it kind of resets the boundaries between the U.S. and Mexico.
They neatly fit.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Good choice. Interesting movie.
Yeah, it's a very well told story.
Yeah, thanks for picking it. Up next, we're going to move into the talking film era with director Irving Cummings and a Western from 1928 starring Warner Baxter as the Cisco Kid, movie which actually earned Warner Baxter the Academy Award as the year's best actor.